Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, groundbreaking, globally recognized advancements. We go behind the scenes at the Florida Aquarium's Coral Conservation and Research Center in Apollo Beach, Florida. Join us as we learn about their newly expanded facilities and the important work that they're doing for the future of the Florida Reef Tract. Plus, we check in on a group of sea turtles who were rescued from the cold waters off the Massachusetts coast. How a team of humans came together to save these cold, stunned keystone species. And the bird's the word for this tall-tailed tribe. We follow along with a group of preschoolers who are out exploring, looking to spot some of our backyard feathered friends. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. It's a place dedicated to the preservation of coral, a place where they've made international headlines for their reproductive breakthroughs. It's the Florida Aquarium's Coral Conservation and Research Center. Located in Apollo Beach, the facility recently doubled in size to accommodate a larger team of experts and more space to spawn and grow several species of coral, with hopes that the work that they are doing will make a difference for generations to come.
Corals are an animal. They're a sessile animal. They actually stay in one place. They have little tiny polyps with little mouths on them and tentacles, so they'll actually catch food out of the water. And they are photosynthetic, so they use a lot of sunlight for their energy. To me, they're really beautiful. If you look closely at the corals, you'll see all their polyps, all the different colors of the corals. And they're also really important ecosystems here in Florida because they are kind of the rainforest of the ocean. We're having a lot of heat waves coming through Florida right now that are causing bleaching events. It causes the corals to lose their symbiotic algae that keeps them alive. There's a lot of biodiversity that lives on coral reefs, so without those coral reefs providing habitat, we lose a lot of that biodiversity, as well as a lot of the fish we enjoy seeing when we're snorkeling and fish we enjoy eating as well. The coral reefs here in Florida also protect our shorelines, so whenever we're having storms like hurricanes coming in, those corals are the first line of defense that break up that energy and help protect our properties here in Florida. So when we lose those coral reefs, we're losing that defensive layer all around Florida. So here at the Florida Aquarium, we are actually holding a lot of corals from the wild to protect their genetics. So we have more genetics here at Florida Aquarium than are actually in our wild reefs here in Florida, which is a little scary, but at least we've protected those genetics so we can spawn those and keep them for future generations. All right, so this is our new spawning lab. So when we spawn the corals, we'll take all the eggs and sperm in here, and then we can do the fertilization and then get them settled on tiles. So we're going on in. We're working with about 19 species of corals. We've spawned 14 of those species in captivity. The first to spawn most of those species in the world. So we're kind of on a leading edge of coral sexual reproduction. And a lot of people are kind of copying what we've been doing to try to start spawning corals in other facilities. And we've been helping out with a lot of other facilities to get their spawning systems set up as well. These are some of our babies from 2020. So this is a 5-year-old brain coral. So that's about how big they'll get in 5 years. So you can see how slow they grow. It takes a really long time. These guys are the ones that build all the reef structure out there. Without these, we wouldn't have any solid structure for all the other animals to grow on and live on. Corals only spawn once a year. So they'll actually release little bundles of eggs and sperm once a year, and we can collect those, mix them together, and we'll produce little baby corals that will settle here at the Coral Conservation Research Center, and then we'll grow those out and then put them back out on our reefs here in Florida. 12 full-time aquarists who work here. So we have a pretty big team just for spawning corals compared to a lot of other places. And we also have a really great team of volunteers who help us out and we have a lot of interns coming through every semester. So quite a few folks to take care of everything we're doing here. Keeping the corals clean is a really big task that we have to take care of. Since the corals have to have a lot of light, it grows a lot of algae. So we end up spending a lot of time cleaning up algae, keeping the water quality really high because corals need really good water quality to survive. And then cleaning the baby corals. So once we spawn the corals and settle them, that's not the end of it. We've got to take care of them for at least a year, sometimes 2 years before they're ready to go back out to the reefs. So there's a lot of cleaning under microscopes. So we'll take the corals and use dental tools to clean around them, keep them nice and clean until they're big enough to fight the algae off on their own. And then we also are spawning pillar coral in this room. So pillar corals are one of the actual endangered species that we work with. So we were the first in the world to spawn the pillar corals. We have more pillar coral here than any other facility in the world. So this is the majority of the pillar coral in Florida at this point. They're a really interesting species to work with. They're quite challenging compared to some of the other species that we work with. They're very needy compared to some of our brain corals are really easy to take care of versus these guys. These guys are tough. Most of our outplants are doing really well when we put them back out, and we're trying to produce more heat-resistant corals that can actually survive when we put them back out on the reefs. Some of them have not survived, but we always learn from those mistakes as well. So if we do lose any corals, we learn from that and we know which ones will survive better on our reefs in the future. So we're actually able to produce more larvae than we can actually raise. So we're working with a lot of collaborators. We sent out over 2 million coral larvae to collaborators in the past year. And then we raised about 10,000 corals ourselves here on our facility that we'll raise up and can be outplanted. But those numbers kind of pale compared to how many larvae we're actually sending out to other facilities who are raising those for research purposes and for outplanting purposes as well. We're really moving away from our greenhouses, like we're out in the greenhouse right now, into more of our induced spawning systems that have artificial lighting. So we're using LED lights to mimic the sunrise, sunset, the moon phases, and then we can manipulate the temperature throughout the year. And that induces the corals to spawn. So the corals only spawn once a year. So being able to pinpoint when they're actually going to spawn is really important, because if you miss that spawn one night, you've missed a whole year of work. A lot of it's the light timing, so mimicking those changes in day length, the moon phases, and the temperature changes. Those are the big three that we really have to be on top of. So we have computerized systems that actually control all of our lights and our heaters and our chillers. This is what we refer to as the light room. So this is kind of our grow out area for all of our corals. So once they spawn here in a dark room, we'll fertilize those babies and then we can settle them here and then grow them out to get them back out on our reefs. So we have a lot of medical tanks here. So all these glass tanks are medical tanks. So in case we have any sick corals that need a treatment, we've got plenty of places to isolate them so we can keep them away from all the healthy corals. And then we have our baby trays here. So these are for settling babies and growing them out. It's kind of shallow trays with a really deep sump. And then we have more quarantine space over here for quarantining all the baby corals. These are from our 2023 batch. So these are about 2 years old at this point. So you can see size-wise compared to the 5-year-old that we just saw a minute ago. So these guys are ready to go back out on the reef. So once they get to about this size, it's time for them to go back out and get outplanted on our reef. We want to make sure they're big enough that when we outplant them, they're not just going to get eaten by something. When we outplant corals, parrotfish find them particularly tasty right after outplanting. So we've actually come up with a parrotfish excluder that's like a little teepee over the coral that protects it from the parrotfish until it's big enough, and then the parrotfish will leave it alone. So without those, they'll just come and munch them right down. It's great work, but it's also heavy work. I've always been passionate about working with aquariums. Even as a kid, I asked for my first saltwater aquarium when I was 4 years old for Christmas, and I've been working with saltwater aquariums ever since. But I see what's happening out on our reefs here in Florida, and you know, it's devastating. So seeing that and knowing I can do something to help is the big thing for me.
For much more about what's going on at the Florida Aquarium's Coral Conservation Center, you can go to flaquarium.org. Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, with the cold weather upon us, some cold-stunned turtles have made their way to the Florida Aquarium's Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center. So we check in to see how they're doing, along with several others receiving care, like Buckley, a sea turtle with a very unique story. The endangered species was found stranded on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. That's all coming up after the break.
Looking to get away for a few days, but nervous to leave your furry friend? Leave your worries behind. At Dante's Den, we offer safe and secure boarding options for your dog or cat. We know your pet is part of the family, so we provide a comfortable environment with experienced caregivers who offer personalized attention. We have a fully equipped medical facility, spacious accommodations, daily activities like swimming and agility, and staff is on site 24/7. Log on to dantesden.org for reservations.
Florida Aquarium's Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center is a place where sick and injured sea turtles receive a second chance at life. It's where a dedicated team of people come together to create and administer individual care plans, with the ultimate goal of releasing these sea turtles back to the wild. In early December of 2024, 6 endangered Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were flown to the Tampa International Airport after being rescued from the cold waters off the Massachusetts coast. We stopped by to see how these guys are doing and also had the opportunity to hear more about the important work underway at this state-of-the-art facility.
Here at the Florida Aquarium Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center, we'll take in sick and injured sea turtles, and then our ultimate goal is to release these guys back out into the wild. So each one of our sea turtle patients that come through here is treated like an individual. They'll get their own medical care plan, their own nutritional plan, whatever that patient needs, we will make sure that we facilitate that for them so we can get to that end goal.
Back in December, 6 endangered Kemp's Ridley sea turtles began their journey to recovery. The National Marine Life Center and New England Aquarium in Massachusetts rescued and triaged these turtles who were suffering from dangerously low body temperatures. A crew with the nonprofit Turtles Fly Too flew the critically endangered turtles down here to the Tampa airport so that they could have a shot at survival. According to the Florida Aquarium, cold stunning is when sea turtles in the Northeast are exposed to prolonged cold water temperatures. It can lead to immobility and other life-threatening conditions. Biologists say they are well on their way to recovery and hope to release them in the near future.
Sea turtles are endangered species. They can be anywhere from threatened to critically endangered, depending on what species of sea turtles it is. And so for each one of our patients that come through our rehab center, again, we do treat them as individuals, so they get that own medical care plan. So just like if you were to have a dog or a cat, you take them to the veterinary hospital and then they get whatever medical needs addressed, we can do the exact same thing for our sea turtle patients. With sea turtles being an endangered species, they are heavily regulated by other agencies. So we work with Fish and Wildlife, or FWC, and there is certain regulations that go into play, making sure that we have the appropriate space, and pool space, water quality, and everything that needs to go into taking care of these animals to provide them that top-notch care. And so with each one of our patients, if they're sick and they have pneumonia, we'll make sure that we tailor our medical care plan to that specific patient. If they have blood and if they have bacteria in their blood, we can blood culture them and we can tailor everything that's specifically to that turtle. We currently have 4 loggerhead sea turtles in our MASH units, which is our mobile aquatic sea turtle holding unit. And they were actually flown to us by a group called Turtles Fly 2. And they originally stranded up in the greater Atlantic region, and every year there's hundreds of turtles that strand up in that region and are initially triaged by the facilities that are up there. However, they don't have space for long-term care. They have space to triage and keep a handful of turtles, but then they get flown to other facilities throughout the United States for that long-term care. So our loggerheads that are downstairs in our MASH units are here with us. We just got them in about a month ago, and we're working through each one of their cases to figure out what exactly is going on with them to see what type of medical care plan we need to facilitate for them. Buckley is a very unique story. So Buckley was actually found a mile inland, which is not a common place for sea turtles. And Buckley was found on a dirt road. Again, not a common place for sea turtles. So we were very lucky that there was Good Samaritans out there just walking along and happened to find Buckley out in the middle of nowhere and called it into FWC. So FWC was then able to dispatch the University of Florida, who went out and responded, picked up Buckley, and then we were able to connect with them to bring Buckley here for us for long-term care. Buckley is doing fantastic. So Buckley is looking good, and right now in Buckley's rehab course, we're just waiting to put on a little bit more weight. Buckley did come in just a little bit thin, so it's just all the food that Buckley can eat within reason, and then we'll eventually release Buckley back out into the wild. We do have an awesome opportunity to be able to satellite tag this animal. So when Buckley is cleared for release by our veterinarians and FWC, we'll be working together with a group called Sea Turtle Conservancy, and we will be placing a satellite transmitter on this animal. So with that, then once Buckley is released, we can track Buckley and figure out where in the world this sea turtle is going to go, because we have no idea where Buckley came from with being found on a dirt road. So we're able to follow Buckley on its journey out into the ocean. My favorite part of the job for the medical husband and the veterinary side that we deal with is when these guys come in and they're super sick and debilitated and lifeless on the table, and then you figure out a medical care plan for them to make them feel better, and you see that evolution of them just blossoming into their own little personalities, and you get them to that point where they're healthy and they're thriving and ready for release, and then you get to release that animal back out into the wild knowing that you made a difference in that animal's life and the population is just very fulfilling. And then the second piece that I really enjoy about my job is our deep dive trials that we facilitate here in our program. So we're one of the only institutions in the state of Florida that have a deep dive trial program and a deep dive pool. So it's 11 foot in depth, and we've taken in cases all over the state of Florida for many different reasons, whether it's buoyancy or if they're missing flippers, visual issues, and our ultimate goal is to truly assess if they can be a turtle or not. So sometimes we'll build turtle jungle gyms for them, and we can assess, can they navigate, move around, can they go underneath different enrichment items that we build, and it will give us a great idea of how that turtle might potentially do out in the wild. And so when you have a turtle come in and it's a critical decision on whether or not the animal will get released or get rehomed to another institution, and all that turtle needs is just some time to build confidence, and we can work with that turtle within reason, we can work with them to build that confidence, and you see that happen. And that turtle being able to get released because of the effort that we put into that turtle while they were here is huge. And again, it goes back to making a difference in that sea turtle's life and population. One of the biggest ways that people can help us save sea turtles is visiting institutions like ours. So when people come into our doors, all of that admission price and everything that you do at our facilities goes back into what we do, and that is taking care of sea turtles. A secondary option is the sea turtle license plate. So in the state of Florida, if you have a sea turtle's license plate, all of that funding goes back into conservation efforts. And we've been able to benefit so much from that sea turtle license plate grant by funding our MASH units and other projects that we've done historically as well. So those are two really big ways to work together to help us support and save sea turtles.
Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, find out what these young explorers are up to and what feathered friends they found flying high in the sky. Welcome back. Now we head to Neal Preserve in Manatee County. It's a 120-acre park that has both coastal habitats along with areas of oak hammock uplands. It's a historically significant site with reconstructed burial mounds and plenty of space for birds to come and nest or even eat their lunch. We caught up with a group of young explorers, preschoolers, who became part of the Tall Tale tribe.
Ready? Head, shoulders, wings and tail, wings and tail. Head, shoulders, wings and tail, wings and tail. Today is a day I take my preschoolers out into nature. So we have once a month, we have a preschool program, and we go and explore the preserve. Whether it be a topic of birds, which we're doing today, woo, feathered friends, or I've done gravity, I've done anything that can pertain to nature. If I can get it in, next month is loops, arches, and swirls. We're gonna explore different shapes in nature. So we've done ABC hikes, we've done it all. But the good part is, in our account, what we do everything from, I have a baby program, all the way up to we work with our senior citizens and do programs for them. So there are programs for anybody who wants to come out and learn, and most of them are free or no cost. So we gotta learn all about birds, and I want you to look at this. All right, this is just some of our backyard birds that are found in Florida. All right, and you can see they're different shapes, right? Do they all look exactly the same? No. Do they have different colors? So this is our tall tail tribes, and it's our feathered friends. So we're gonna go out, and the bird's the word, we're gonna learn all about them. And everything from like what we're looking for, like we're gonna break down what a bird is, and then we're gonna go and use binoculars and go out and find them, hopefully, if it's not too cold. But, you know, you never know. Vultures are actually our number one. I would say I see black and turkey vultures. We see osprey, we see mockingbirds. I saw a little bit ago a great blue heron. So there is a high possibility of a lot of our shore birds, all right? But the forests around here, if you look at these forests, I mean, there's plenty that can be in here. And while there is some, you can see some effects of what happened with Milton. So you can see some of the wind problems that occurred. It's still great habitat for many of our forest birds. I think our jobs are to keep people informed on nature, to get them nose to nose with nature. If you get someone to see and love and like have a moment in nature, an aha moment in nature, oh my gosh, it changes them. It makes them go from being like nature's out over there to no, nature is here. Nature is the cedar. Nature is that osprey we're gonna hopefully see. You know, that's what it comes down to.
For more information on the free or low-cost programs offered by Manatee County, log on to mymanatee.org and click on their Calendar of Events tab. And we'll be right back. Animal Outtakes is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a nonprofit group dedicated to creating the best life for dogs. If you would like to learn more about Dante's Den, donate, or volunteer, visit our website, dantesden.org. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with even more animals and some engaging encounters. Until then, thanks for watching.